Okay, everybody, here we go. Here we go. First document I'd like you to take a look at is the two-sided document that says March written testing. And it's a two-sided document. Everybody have this? If you don't have it, there's one in the back. Just so that you follow me on this. 4 times during the month of March, 2 on the front, 2 on the back, you'll be able to come in and take the course testing for the courses that have been held up to that point in time. So in other words, on March 10th, there would have been only 3 Fillmore Pro certification classes that had been held. Okay? So you can come in if you're inclined to and you're prepared to take those. Then on the 15th, those 3 and the 4th class, you can come in and hit the testing. You only need to take one test for each one, but I'm trying to give as many opportunities and windows of time for people. On March 23rd, it's the same tests again if you couldn't make one of the earlier dates. And on the 30th will encompass all of the classes and all of the tests. So if you missed one in between, you can take them at any point in time. For those folks who just walk in the door, the handouts are in the back table back there. All right? Any questions about the testing?
Yes.
Questions?
Why do you
Well, during the evening is when a lot of the classes are being held. But we can make provisions. We can make provisions. We get some windows of time. How many people would find it best to take the testing in the evening? Okay. All right. Good. Simple enough. Simple enough. We'll put that in place. I'll get a couple of evening dates and plug it in, and we'll get it out to you in hand at the next class. Okay. So we'll get some evening classes. Just for your information, I took the tip last week that someone had mentioned, and there was a large following for it, where we will have, I don't see it on the dash, it was posted today, there are morning curriculum classes, okay? So there's going to be a mix and match. So when a class is held in the morning, later this month, or later in the month of March, it's held in the morning, the following month it's going to be held in the evening. And then the next month, it's going to be held in the morning. Okay, so we'll just rotate. Okay? What other questions do we have relative to the testing? Any?
The time next week, but the 15th, would it be 5 o'clock or between the 11 and 5?
What is your question?
Like it says, test between 11 and 5. Would it be 11 o'clock class or 5 o'clock class?
What are you talking about?
So anytime you come, you can just get some.
The time.
Yeah, March 30th, the testing is going to be between 11 and 5
It's open all day?
for those classes. Everybody's attention, please. Everybody's attention, because everybody has the same questions. Just between 11 and 5 on the 30th, there's going to be testing for those classes.
Okay.
Yes?
Do we have to register to come take the test?
Yes. Barbara Malika, you'll need to register with Barbara Malika so that we know how many monitors we have and where to put people, or to spread people around the building. Now listen, please do me a favor, everybody. Don't get all wacky and twisted about the tests. The tests cover the material to a T. And during these courses, I emphasize the points that are most important. So you know me well enough. The things that I emphasize, you'll know to make a little mark against, and then you'll know. And they're not hard. They're not hard. Question.
You said between 11 and 5. That's not taking all the studies.
No. I mean, I can't imagine anyone coming in to take more than two tests. I just can't imagine it. That's not your question? What's your question? Sorry. Is that your question?
Why does it going to take that long to take?
No, I would say it would take you a half hour to take a test. Half hour. There's 20 questions. Bing, 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 bing. All you have to do, and please trust me on this, okay? All you have to do is to read over the handout that I handed out last week, and you're gonna get them all right. That's all you gotta do. What do you gotta do? Yes.
You must attend the class in order to take the exam.
Say it again.
You have to attend the class.
Do you have to attend the class to take the test? Yes, you do. You have to, we're gonna match up your registration. That's why signing in is so critically important. We're gonna match up your registration for the class, and if you weren't registered in the class, there's gonna be a roster that's gonna be put together, and it's gonna be posted on the dashboard, along with the first video later this week. The first video is going to be uploaded. There's going to be a registration, and if there's an issue about your name not being on there, you got to get a hold of Barbara Malika right away and sort it out. Because you're not going to be able to take the test unless you attended the class. Now, there's a caveat here. The caveat is that there are people in the room who did over $40,000 in gross revenue. You don't have to take the test. If you did over $40,000 in gross revenue in 2010, you don't have to take the test. You don't have to take the course. You don't want to. But there's people in this room who are taking the course anyway, but they don't have to take the test. Everybody with me on that? Okay, question.
The video will cover the same material as the class.
The video is me talking, absolutely. The video is going on right now as we speak.
So can you just register, can you just take the course through the video?
If you did over $40,000 in gross revenue, yes. If you did not do over $40,000 in gross revenue in 2010, you need to come to the classes. Now, the class attendance is tremendous. Remember one thing. You don't have to rush and take all these classes back to back to back to back. And the reason why is because each one of these classes, this class tonight is going to be held 2 more times over the course of the next 6 months. Everyone who did not do $40,000 in gross revenue can opt to become certified, but you're going to need to attend one of the 3 alike classes at some point in time over the next 6 months and take the tests. Yes? Everybody with me? Yes. Okay. What other questions? These are all big questions. This is all new. What other questions? Yes?
So you have to take 3 of the classes and take 3 to test?
No. Let me say it again, and this is all new to everybody, so we're going to go nice and slow with this, okay? Everybody's attention please. There are 10 certification classes. 10 certification classes. Every month, 5 certification classes are going to be offered. And the metrics are very simple. If there's 5 classes over the course of 6 months, that's 30 classes, and there's 10 courses, so that means that each course will be held 3 times over the 6-month period. Okay? You only have to take a class, one of the 10 classes, once, and pass the certification, the written certification test. Now, something that we haven't talked about is that on 3 of these classes, 3 of these courses, there's going to be a video portion where you're going to be videoed. In the privacy of a room, just you and perhaps your manager, and you're going to be asked to role play some of the more important, poignant points from some of these classes, such as the listing presentation, such as this class tonight, such as role playing some of the objections. You'll be thrown 2 or 3 objections, and if you handle them satisfactorily, great. And if you don't, we just do it again. And it's going to be on tape, just for you. It isn't going to be posted anywhere. It's just for you. Not on YouTube. Not unless you want to. All right? Yeah, I'm good. Okay. Barbara's phone number is right on the dashboard with all the classes. Okay? But I will put it on there next time. Okay, good. Very good. I appreciate that. Okay? We good? Yes. All right. Tonight's class is a very, very important one. Was there a question?
They're open book test.
Say it again?
Open book.
Open book? No open book. No open book. Are we getting warm yet? Okay. Tonight's class is probably, at least in my estimation, if you're ever thinking about going on a listing appointment, Tonight's class is the most important class, and I'll tell you why. Because what I will have provided for you here is effectively a boilerplate presentation for you to take in. Okay? Everyone in this room, when you go on a listing appointment, should follow the same loose strategy. You should have a structure when you go out on a listing appointment. Now, everyone will deliver their presentation in their own way and their own style. Not like me, not like the person sitting next to you. You gotta stay within your own comfort zone. So first I'm providing, the first document that I want you to take a look at is what do sellers want from us at the listing table, okay? Now once we get through this, we're actually gonna go in and break down the various pieces of a well thought out listing presentation. Now everyone in this room, in your own style and your own way, should be selling Fillmore the same way. Everyone in this room should be selling the reasons why Fillmore is different from every other realtor the same way. In your own style, but in the same way, delivering these key points. Everyone should be following the structure in the same way. Okay? Here. Now let's start with from a jump point that's very basic. Okay? What do sellers want from us at the listing table? We're getting into the program here tonight, okay? Number one is obvious. The most important thing in the seller's mind is pricing and substantiation of their property. They could care less what you have to say about Fillmore, your presentation, and your agenda. They want to know that. But if you get into this topic early on in your conversation, wherever on the phone, you lose. Pricing and substantiation of pricing should always be at the tail end of the presentation. Because, why is that? Someone tell me why that's the case.
You don't want to lose their, you don't want to lose them early in
Good man. You don't want to lose their attention because if you give them numbers they don't like, they're not going to be closed off. They're not even going to be listening to you. So it's so important that you're able to push it off till the tail end of the presentation. Okay? Point number two. The seller wants to feel good about you as a person. If the seller doesn't like you, I don't care how professional you are, how articulate you are, I don't care what good things you have to say, you're not going to get the listing. The seller has to like you, and also you have to earn some respect about having local knowledge about their property and its location. And that's why I'm going to give you a tip on something, and it's so important. It's really for the next time out when we talk about the comparable presentation. But please, when you go to a seller's property for a listing presentation, if there are properties on the market that you're presenting as comps, you had better get your butts out there to physically walk them. Most agents are lazy. Most agents just pull comps. And those comps that are currently on the market, they don't necessarily visit them. You be different. You go visit those comps so that when you're sitting in front of the seller and the seller is arguing about the value of his property being greater, you can say, I was in that property 2 days ago, sir, and their basement is finished. It was just done. There's a bathroom down. So you can speak articulately. Not only to defend the pricing, but to also show them that you went that extra step, that extra yard. Okay? Number three. They want to know what your plan and what your strategy is to get their property marketed and sold. They want to know your strategy. And that's something I'm going to give you answers to tonight in a fashion that's very, very straightforward. Okay? Number four, they want to know what you're going to do differently than that Coldwell Banker agent that was in yesterday and the corporate agent that's coming in tomorrow. Now, I would say 50% of the sellers actually say to you, well, you know, the presentation is good, but what are you going to do differently? If they don't ask that question, you know they're thinking it. So what I'd love all of you to do is in your presentation, say to the seller, you know, you're probably wondering, Mr. and Mrs. Brown, what I and Fillmore are going to do differently than the other realtors who you're interviewing. Here's exactly what we're going to be doing differently. So be preemptive in your own style and your own way, but deliver those differentiators. I've got 5 great differentiators that we're going to review in just a little while. Okay? Number 5, they also want to be sold on the reputation of your company, its integrity, and its stability. And that you can do very easily with Fillmore, but I've also lined that out for you with a handout that you're gonna be able to use. You know, maybe you just might want to retype it and put it on a fancy format, but all that information is right here. Now, if I was just to really crystallize this page right here, you've got to get the seller to like you. And you've got to earn their trust by being somewhat knowledgeable. But then, there's three things that you're selling. There's three things that you're selling. You're selling yourself, you're selling Fillmore, and you're selling the things that you're going to be doing differently. If you can nail those three things, you're good to go. You've got to sell yourself, you've got to sell Fillmore, and you've got to sell the Fillmore differentiators. If you can do that, you're good to go. And I provided you with that information in the next document. Okay? We good? Any questions about that? All right. Let's take a look at the thicker document that's in front of you. Okay? Looking at the blueprint of a solid listing presentation. The blueprint of a solid listing presentation. Okay? All right. Do your homework. Before you ever knock on the door, before you ever enter that seller's house, their property, do your homework. Walk the neighborhood to familiarize yourself with it thoroughly. You know, see the condition of the properties. See what's going on in the neighborhood. See what's happening. Is it gentrifying? Is the neighborhood deteriorating? What is exactly going on in the neighborhood? You need to be able to do that in order to make a good presentation. Okay? Also look for sale by owners to research. Now, a lot of agents don't do that. They don't include FSBOs in their comp analysis. Make sure that you do. Make sure that you do. It's so easy to get into a for sale by owner, to evaluate the property. How you do it, you merely call up the for sale by owner, and you say, hi, you know, I see that your property's for sale. I'm working with a buyer, and I'd love to get in and preview the property because my buyer has me preview every property before I take her out to see them. Okay? Get in and include the for sale by owners in your comp analysis. Besides from having another comp, what's the other reason to do that?
You might be with the listing.
Now you schmooze with the for sale by owner for maybe your future, but you also know the entire market then. Okay? All right. Make sure, as part of your homework, that you go to Property Shark, Realist, and Geodata. Why? You want to go to those three, go to all three sites, because you want to find out a little bit about the history of the property. You want to find out who the title owners are. If you go on a listing appointment and you meet with the son of the owner, that and $2 gets you on the subway. And you're probably going to want to go, but at least you want to know who you're talking to. The title owners must sign, both title owners, or all 5 title owners, must sign the listing agreement, or else it's not worth anything, the document. Okay? Also, with on these 3 websites, Geodata, Property Shark, and Realist, you're going to be able to see how deep that seller may be in debt, and maybe even if they're upside down. Because in these sites, you're going to be able to see what the debt is on the property. Now, if you know the relative market value is $500,000, and you see they have a first mortgage for $450,000 and a second mortgage for $150,000, you know that they're what kind of candidate? Short sale candidate. That's the only kind of candidate they are. Because they're underwater, they're upside down. So you've got to do your homework before you go out on a listing appointment. Even if it's with a friend. You've got to do your homework. And then, obviously, you're going to pull your comparables. Okay? So this is some homework that you should do ahead of time. Okay? So you get to the seller's house. You get to their property. You get to their condominium. Now, you've got to be on time. You've got to be on time. Why do you have to be on time? Professionalism, and what else? I mean, let's look at this. It's respect. You know why it's respect? Because this is the biggest, one of the largest assets in their lives. Be punctual, and be dressed to kill. Because I wouldn't want to give the biggest asset of my life into someone's hands who's not the consummate professional. So just think about that. Be dressed to the nines, okay? Greet the seller with energy and excitement. I mean, this is all basic stuff, but it's something you gotta work towards. Energy and excitement. You've got to show that you've got the energy and excitement about marketing and selling their property that will engage them and make them feel good about you in every way. You've got to get the seller to like you that I mentioned before. And the best way to get anyone to like you, anytime in your life, is by offering compliments and being polite and being gracious. Okay? But compliment them. Compliment them. And one area that I see many agents falling short in is that they don't put the seller's agenda first. All too often, agents launch into their listing presentation without putting the seller's agenda first. And I'll show you exactly how to do that. It's very simple to do, and it's easy, and you get the eating right out of your hands, okay? You always want to try to go on the house tour first. Always first. What do you think is the basic reason why you want to go on the house tour first? People like to brag about their house, it'll give you an opportunity to ooh and ah about their house, and it's a good time to ask some very good qualifying questions in sort of a innocuous, surreptitious, behind the back door sort of way, okay? You'll get to know the seller also. And please do this. Please carry a pad and pencil and be making copious notes as you're going around. Be making all kinds of notes about this, that, and the other thing. Oohing and eyeing. Now, even if you're making out your grocery list for later on that night, please be making notes, because it makes you appear to be officious and to care. If you see crown molding, go, oh, crown molding, that's great. And the other reason for this is this. I know agents who go on the house tour, they get the listing, and then they have to go back to make notes about what they're going to put in their property description. Get that done right then and there as you're going through the property, all right? Be mindful of improvements. You know, many sellers like to brag, oh, you know, I put this bathroom in myself, I did this, I did that. Never ask during the house tour, when they mention this stuff, if they've gotten proper permitting. Don't. Because that could put a kibosh and a damper on you getting the listing. After you have the listing signed, then you want to ask those questions. Why? Just for those people who were new in the room, if that seller went ahead and made improvements to the property and didn't get proper permitting, when the inspector comes out, they'll find it, and oftentimes that has to be torn out. I've seen bathrooms and decks and improvements and electrical being torn out because proper permitting wasn't obtained at the time the work was put in. It depends upon how tough and how nasty that inspector is. Okay? So you want to ask those questions after you have the listing signed, not before. Okay? All right.
Excuse me,
yes.
that inspector comes from
The
bank?
township, the
Township people.
locality, yeah. Building department,
You can see that online.
okay? And sometimes inspectors, sometimes bank appraisers will ask those questions too, okay? Don't talk about negatives of the property while you're on the house tour. Do not talk about negatives. I see agents do this occasionally. Because you're, at this point in time, you're trying to build rapport. The house tour is all about building rapport. When do you think the time would be appropriate to talk about negatives? Well, let me. Your answers here are accurate. But if I were, let's move forward in the process a little bit. If there were some negatives associated with the property, and I presented the comps, and the seller had issue with the market's numbers that I was presenting, that's when I probably bring it up. Okay, certainly. And then if I decided to take the listing at a price higher than what the market's calling for, then certainly in my feedback after I have the listing, you and I would be talking about those things. Okay. Any questions? All right. So don't talk about negatives in the property when you tour it. Okay. And this is an important point. Give the seller the distinct impression that you like their property. You know, there's some chairs out in the hallway out there. There's some chairs out in the hallway out there. Give the seller the distinct impression that you like their property. I've seen very capable listing agents who breeze in and breeze out of a property quickly, and they don't mention they like the property, and the seller ends up giving the listing to another less capable agent because they think that that other agent who showed that they like the property is going to work harder to sell the property just because they like it. Now we know that's bogus, but sellers think that if this agent really likes my property, she's going to get me the best price. That's what they think. So act as though you like their property, mention that you think it's very sellable, okay? Take your time on the house tour. I don't care if it's a 500 square foot studio. Take your time. Go down and see the lobby, go down and see the garbage area. Take your time. Take your time. And I've seen agents that have sold condominiums in the same building, and they come in and go, I've been in this type of residence many, many times. Wrong. Wrong thing to do. Take your time on the house tour, because the seller's evaluating you as well, okay? Now, there's two great questions, and you can circle them down at the last couple bullet points under house tour, asking qualifying questions. Early on in your house tour, as you're taking off your jacket, or as you're starting to move through the property, with a big smile on your face, say, hey folks, where are you moving to? Now that is what I call a punch in the mouth question, because they don't know where you're coming from. With their answer to that question, when you ask them, where are you moving to, you will find out everything about their urgency. And you want to know if they have urgency or not. Now, I say, where are you moving to? And they say, well, you know, we've gone ahead and put money down in a condo down in South Carolina. I'm going, yeah! Okay? If they say, when I say, where are you guys moving to? And they say, well, you know, we really haven't. How much urgency do they have? Okay? So you've got to ask that question. Okay? And then a little while later, this is almost a question that gets to the same answer, but sometimes when you ask a question in a different way, you get a little bit of a different response. Get into the habit of asking them, you know, at this time, what prompted you folks to want to list, market, and sell your property? At this time, what prompted you to want to go ahead and get your property listed, marketed, and sold? It's a great question to ask because they may tell you something a little bit about their motivation, okay? You've got to find out urgency and motivation during the house tour. Urgency and motivation. You don't need to use these questions, but I found that they've worked. The people that I've trained have gotten what they're looking for, okay? Urgency and motivation during the house tour. And here's why. Now, I want you just to think strategically. It's very, very important. Even if you're brand new, think strategically. If they don't have urgency, what are you going to have to do at some point in time during your presentation? Create it. So if you know they don't have urgency, after the house tour, when you sit down, you want to go ahead and talk about market talk. Talk about the market. Okay? Now this is very important. Listen to me carefully now. If they do not have urgency, immediately after the house tour, you're going to sit down with them at the kitchen table or the dining room table, and if they don't have urgency, you're going to want to talk about the market and give them reasons why they should want to list and sell their property right now. If they have urgency, skip the market talk. If they have urgency, skip it. You don't need to talk about it. But if they don't have urgency, you want to talk about what's going on in the marketplace and the reasons why they should want to sell now. Now, someone tell me, what's one reason why a seller who, I don't know, I'm thinking about selling, why should that seller want to sell now? Someone give me one very important reason. Interest rates. Mortgage rates are creeping up. When mortgage rates creep up, the pool of buyers shrinks. And even those buyers who can qualify with higher mortgage rates, they can afford less house, less property. So it's a great thing to bring up, okay? A great thing to bring up. Could one of the guys that's sitting in the back, wedge open the back door back there? It's getting warm and there's no breeze. Just the outside door. That closet should be open. You can grab a barrel or grab anything, just wedge it open. I appreciate it. Thank you. okay? So, now, this is gonna be a separate page on Market Talk, but that's one reason. What's another reason why that seller should wanna get their property on the market now? Yes,
Supply and demand.
okay? Supply and demand, talk about that a little bit.
There might be a lot of houses on the market, and it's a good time to put your house on the market.
Okay, good, and that's very, very closely tied to, right.
More foreclosures coming on the market every month, so you should
Exactly.
sell it before it gets too
Very good.
saturated.
Let me just mention that, both you guys are absolutely right. There's still a fear right now that we haven't seen the end of the flood of defaulted and foreclosed properties coming on the market. And there's many experts who think there's gonna be another wave of foreclosed and defaulted properties. If those properties do hit the market, Mr. and Mrs. Markham, then what we may see is additional lower price inventory coming onto the market, competing against your property and dragging your price down. So if you're thinking about getting your property on the market, now's a great time. Peter?
Downsizing.
Downsizing, meaning?
Really, people are there for 40, 50 years,
Right,
they want a
right,
small,
right,
small
right.
property.
Another reason to create urgency is if you did find out what their motivation was, as I asked you to during the house tour, if their motivation is, well, we just don't need this larger house anymore, you know, we can't handle the taxes anymore, that's a reason to bring that up, to try to create some additional urgency when you sit down with them, okay? Just remember, with the Market Talk, if they do have urgency to move, skip it, okay? All right, turn the page, page number 2. Put the seller's agenda first. And this is what I was talking about. Oftentimes, after the house tour, let's say the seller does have urgency, agents sit down with the sellers and they roll immediately into their listing presentation. And that's putting their own agenda first. My strong recommendation is that you take 5 minutes and ask 3 stupid questions, as far as I'm concerned. Because you know the answers, well, you know the answer to 2 of the 3. But what these questions do, they're rapport building, and they also put the seller's agenda first. So envision this. We come back from the house tour, the seller does have urgency or doesn't have urgency, so either I'm going to talk about the market or not. We sit down, we're sitting down, and instead of me talking about Fillmore, I'm going to ask 3 questions of the seller. I'm going to ask the seller, folks, tell me, what would you like to accomplish this evening? Okay? Now, this has happened to me at least 5 times. Follow me on this. I've asked that question, and the seller has said to me, you know, we hear some great things about your company, we had success with it in the past, whatever they might say, we're interested in listing our property with you. When you hear that, when I heard that, I bagged this entire presentation, and I pulled out the comps. So you don't need to go through all this. So make sure you ask that question, what would you like to accomplish this evening? Now, most of the time they're going to say, well, I want to know what our property's worth, I want to know what you're going to do for me, I want to know what you're going to do differently, whatever they say, you're going to say, great, we're on the same page, that's exactly what I plan on covering tonight. Then you're going to ask them, you're going to say, tell me, what are your expectations of a realtor? What do you expect of a realtor? Now, they all say the same thing. I know what they say. We want someone who's reliable, someone who's honest, someone's going to give me the best price, someone else. You know what they're going to say. Let them say what they're going to say, and then you say, I think by the end of this evening, you'll see that I'm the right person, based upon what you just told me. It's just rapport building. And the third question is a very important one. The third question is, tell me, have you met with, or do you plan on meeting with any other realtors? Why do you want to ask that question? I want to know who my competition is. I want to know if it's a little mom and pop I'm competing against. I want to know if it's a franchise that I'm competing against, because I'm going to attack them in a different way. So make sure you ask. Like, you got to ask it. It's a 2-way, open-ended question. Have you met with, or do you plan on meeting? Some agents will say, "Are you going to meet with other agents?" And they say, "Yeah." And then, where do you go? Have you met with, or do you plan on meeting with any other agents? And when they say yes, and they just say yes, explore it, dig down, and say, well, have you met with any yet? Yes, we have. Can I ask who? Always probe, find out who. So they say Coldwell Banker. Great. Great company. Which office? Great company. Never disparage your competition. Great company. Then say, were you planning on meeting with anybody else besides Coldwell Banker and myself? Yeah, we're going to meet with Century 21 on Saturday. Great company. Great company. Now here's the key. If you can remember this, you get some brownie points. when they mention any other companies, after you say, great, so you know, both those organizations, they sell a lot of our listings. It's a great thing to say. Why? Because most agents, when they go on listing appointments, only talk about what me. The reality is, what percentage of all the properties in Brooklyn are co-broke? 96%! So the reality is that there's only a 4% chance that I'm going to bring a buyer. So to be able to evidence the fact that Fillmore works very aggressively and openly and willing to split commissions with other companies, not only is it a reality, but it's probably going to happen. So mention the fact that they sell a lot of our listings. And then bring up the point that you may not know this, Mr. and Mrs. Johnson, but 96% of all the properties in Brooklyn are co-broke. You know why you say that? Because 45 minutes later, when they start beating you down about your commission, that's your major argument. Everybody with me? We talked about that last week, remember? That's your major argument. Plant that seed right then and there. This is called strategic selling. Question?
If they tell you they're not gonna sign with you because 45 minutes from now they're gonna seize Century 21.
Correct.
Do you then say, well, at the end of that, would you mind me coming back and giving you?
Great question. Great question. We're getting a little bit ahead of ourselves, but it's a great question. Great question. The question was, if you know they're meeting with Weicker, or they're meeting with Coldwell Banker, or someone on Saturday, meeting with Century 21 on Saturday, what do you do? You try to close them at the end of the listing appointment, and they say, well, you know, we are meeting with Century 21 on Saturday. The right strategy there is to do, what is it? You want to try to push them, but if you can't push them, I've always found this works. And we're getting way ahead of ourselves since you begged the question. What I've always said was, I appreciate the fact, I encourage you to meet with Century 21 because we love to be compared and contrasted against our competition, but can I ask you a favor? Can I ask a favor of you? And almost all of them say, sure, what? And I say, will you give me another opportunity to speak with you after you meet with Century 21? Okay? Can I ask a favor of you? Will you give me an opportunity to chat with you again, ideally meet with you again after you meet with Century 21? Now most agents, most of the competitors won't do that. Just they're not thinking strategically. Okay? Oftentimes you're not going to be able to push someone into the listing that night. You want to get the last word in. Okay? You good? All right. Okay, so those are the three questions that you want to ask to put the seller's agenda first. Yes?
I'm sorry, so if you ask that to come back again,
Yes.
what exactly is your,
Well, I'm gonna go in. My expectation is that, you know, are you ready to move ahead and list with me? With a big ass smile on my face. I'm gonna go in. I'm gonna say, I guess since I'm here, I guess you're ready to list with me. And then hear what they say, because they're probably gonna try to play the commission game, or they're gonna try to say that Century 21 had higher comps, whatever they're gonna say. Just be prepared, okay? But walk in with the positive mental attitude that the reason why you're back in there is to take care of the paperwork, okay? Go in with the positive mental attitude. Great question. Yes?
Chances are, I never did that, but I would imagine they would say, I can imagine some of these people saying, well, what for? What else are you going to say? I heard what you had to say, and if you want, you know, if I don't like them and I like you, you'll hear from me.
I would just like the opportunity to sit down and chat with you, again, regardless, because I really feel like I do a great job at selling you home. That's when it's just the soft sell. That's when you got to put on the act and just schmooze with them. Okay? But here's the case. Here's the case. And you heard me say this. If you don't take that basketball, and you don't shoot it at the hoop, if you don't physically take the ball in your hands and shoot it at the hoop, there's no chance it's going to go in. That's right. So you got to ask. Okay? You all heard someone say the regular life, you don't ask, you don't get. That's what you got to do. So you got to ask for that opportunity. If they say no and they're ironclad against it, at least I shot the ball. Okay? All right. Here we go. All right. So presentation of the value propositions. Okay? These four things I have written out for you. I've done your homework for you. Okay? These four things. Fillmore's stability and history, Fillmore's, present substantiate why you, Fillmore's value propositions, and what you're gonna do differently. Don't look now, we're gonna go over them real quickly, okay? That section right there, I have written out for you. All you've gotta do, it would be to copy it, put it in a little bit of a sexier format, or just use what I have. That's your handouts. That's what you're gonna hand out. Now listen, Fillmore's got this beautiful orange brochure, right? But it's written like a novel. You don't expect anybody to read that and buy based on that. What you have to do is to have bullet points. Give the seller bullet points. 4 or 5 things that they can refer to and see. Not a novel. Okay? I've seen Corcoran Sunshine's, Corcoran's listing presentations. It's like a novel. It's like pages and pages and talking about, their affiliates over in Europe. Everyone gives a shit about that. Come on. And no one has the time or energy. Give them bullet points. I've given you bullet points, okay? I've given you bullet points. Okay. After that, you move to the comparable presentation. Now, we've got a class coming up on presenting the comps. So I'm not going to dwell on that tonight, because that's an entire hour and a half to do it right, to coach you on how to do that. But there should be 4 different types of comps in an ideal world that you present. 4 different types. Now, all these comps are of the same genre. They're all the same type of property in the same area, in the same neighborhood, the same bedroom and bathroom count, with the same elements, blah, 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 blah. But there's 4 different types. One type of comp that you want to present are expireds. Expireds. Why? Why did 99% of all the properties expire?
Right.
They were overpriced, so you want to demonstrate the fact, and you want to present them first, that these properties, these 2 properties, were on the market for a point in time, but they were taken off the market. And invariably, properties are taken off the market, Mr. and Mrs. Jones, because they were overpriced. And that's one of the risks that sellers face. Their properties languish if the properties are overpriced. Now, just by presenting those first, what seed am I planting in their head? You bet. You bet. Okay? Then you want to present properties that were on the market and closed. Then you want to present properties that are currently on the market. And then, if you got access to them, and the only way you're going to have access to them is if someone in your office has one that fits into the category, of properties that are currently under contract. Now, properties currently under contract are the most poignant, the most important. Why?
They're now.
Now time. It's right now. It's right now. Okay? So those are the 4 types of comps that you want to be able to present. Okay? So we have expireds, we have properties currently on the market, not sold, we have properties that did sell and close, and we have properties that are currently under contract. And with all of them, and we're going to go over this in depth, with all of them, it's very, very important that you talk about days on market and price reductions. For each one of the comps that you present, you want to talk about days on market and price reductions, just to demonstrate that properties that are overpriced they stay on the market. Question? Yes?
Something, you said expired, properties that close, properties that are currently under contract.
And properties that are currently on the market.
Okay.
Okay? Those are the 4 types. Yes?
Yes.
We good on that? All right, let's move on. All right, let's go to page 3, because we're going to cover the rest of that stuff on page 2 in the comparable presentation class. Okay? Yes? Yeah.
Should we obtain, or is it gonna start by themselves?
No.
We have to know what
Okay.
it is going
Yeah,
on.
great point. The question was obtaining the seller's price opinion. Now, we're going to get into this topic in depth in the class presenting comparables, but let me address the question. Before you ever present comps, and again, gang, we're not talking about presenting comps tonight. That's where the next class is. But that's why I didn't have all the detail here tonight, because I'm just giving you the blueprint of the listing presentation. Before you ever pull out your comparables, there's 2 very important strategies you've got to put in play. Number 1, you've got to warn the seller about the risks of overpricing. You don't look at the seller and go, you know, there are risks that you're gonna face if you overprice. You're gonna talk in more global terms. You're gonna say, there are risks that sellers face if they overprice their property. And you're gonna line out the 3 or 4 risks. Again, this is in the next class. The next thing that you're gonna do, before you present the comps, is you're gonna ask what the seller's price opinion is. And the way you ask them is very simple. You say, certainly before I came here tonight, Mr. and Mrs. Black, and you had a price in mind that you wanted to achieve, why don't you share that with me? Certainly you had a price in mind before I came here tonight. Why don't you share that price with me? Now, half the time, they say, you're the expert, you tell me. And when they say that, I got a nice little line that bought me some answers. I would say, well, thank you, I am the expert. With a big smile, you know, in a nice way. I am the expert, but you're my client, you're my customer. And in order for me to reach your price goals and objectives, I need to know what they are, so I can work towards them, right? Now, 50% of the time when I did that, they gave them to me. Still yet, overall, a quarter of the people wouldn't give me a price. Now, when people don't give you a price, what can you bank on is going to compare to your comps? They're going to be high, okay? If they give you a number and it's high, you've got to put a totally different strategy in place, but that's for the next class, okay? And I'll tell you this right now, 70% of all the listings that are lost during the comparable presentation. So come to that class. It's very, very important you get these several nuances down right. Okay? Turn to page 3. Okay? This is what you should have in your listing presentation. These things. You should have. Fillmore's got a beautiful new blue folder. I forget the color blue it is. Cerulean blue, I think it is. Okay? But it's a beautiful new folder. Use that. Or I also recommend to have a folder. You know the ones that your daughters or sons, or if you're going to school now, you use with the clear plastic front, that the margin thing on the side, you can slip stuff in between. I know some people that have done this, and I think it's kind of a cute idea, and I think it shows that you take that extra step. I know people that have gone out to the seller's property before the listing presentation, taken a snapshot of the property, of the building, and had it blown up in color, and put it right on the inside cover, and people love to see their property. And so when you present it, it's a nice look. Okay? There you go. There's one right back there. Check that out. All right? Dynamite. Dynamite. Yes. Yeah.
You go there, you go one for you and one for them. You don't get the listing that day.
Yeah.
You leave the folder.
Yeah, I leave the folder because I love the comps. I would leave the folder. It's a great point. Now, with these leave behinds, you should bring 3 sets. One for yourself, and one to give them, and if there's multiple people, give 2. One to the wife and one to the husband, okay? Because here's the idea. I don't know if you do, but I was a good cheater in high school, in college. Cheated real good. I always had like little cheat sheets. Okay, I'm being honest with you, right? Don't hold it against me. This can be your cheat sheet, because you can go right from the documents that I give you tonight and read them as they're reading them. Okay? That's what I provided you with tonight. I provided you with all of these things tonight in this document. Okay? I provided you with all of these things. So, you have either one of the 2 folders that I suggested. Okay? Then you're going to have a page that you have right here with Fillmore's history. And there's 4 or 5 bullet points. Another page, why Fillmore? Another page that says, why, now hang on, I'm going to get to them all in a second. I'm going to review each one of those pages in just a moment. Just stay with me on this. Keep you focused on this page. 4 or 5 bullet points on Fillmore history, 4 or 5 bullet points on why Fillmore, 4 or 5 bullet points on why you, why me, 4 or 5 points on what am I going to do differently. Okay? Now, my suggestion is, and it's very simple, merely say to the seller, talk about Fillmore's history. You know, certainly it's, you know, it must be important to you to know that the company that you ultimately list your property with has a rich history. And then just read off the points, because they're going to be looking at it too. Once you get finished with that, you go to why Fillmore. You know, certainly in your mind, you probably are asking the question, why should I list my property with Fillmore? Why don't you read along with me, Mr. and Mrs. Johnson, and go over those 4 or 5 bullet points. Why me? Go over those, and you may add to embellish that. And the differentiators are very, very important, okay? Take a look at the next page. Okay? We don't need to go over this, but this is the market talk. Now, if you want, if you're not comfortable in talking about the market, include this document. Because these are the reasons why the seller should want to get their property in the market right now. This page called Market Talk, again, you only want to invoke Market Talk when? When they don't have urgency. If they have urgency, you don't need to do it, okay? But this doc, you can have this right in the presentation packet. And just read these things.
Do you want, would you leave this behind?
Yes!
This would be a leave
We're going to
behind?
leave all these things behind.
Not the combo.
Pardon me? Absolutely. Always leave the comps behind. Always leave the comps behind. I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why leave the comps behind. If you did the research and you did the analysis, leave the comps behind. Because I'll tell you why. Because the seller will say to me, after I present the comps, and this has happened to me 50, 75 times, I'm not exaggerating. After I presented the comps, the seller says, I'm very disappointed. I'm very disappointed. And I said, why? He goes, well, because Century 21 was in here last night, and their numbers were much higher. And I'm going to say, well, do me a favor, show me the comps that they left with you. And you know what the seller goes? Because the Century 21 agent didn't leave the comps. You know why? Because the Century 21 agent wanted that listing at any cost, even to take an overpriced listing, which you don't want to do. You don't want to take a grossly overpriced listing. Because that's like having a millstone around your neck when you're trying to swim. Okay? It's 6 months of agony. Leave the comps if you did your research. Why not? Why not? Do you guys realize, do you honestly not think that the seller, savvy sellers today, run comps? Buyers, before they make offers on properties, what do? They run comps. Everybody runs comps. Back 7 years ago, maybe I wouldn't. But now, I'm going to leave the comps because it's public record, it's public information. Leave the comps. Leave all of these things behind. That's why I'm saying, you know, talk about the market. These things are accurate here. They're not, I wouldn't put you in a compromised position. All these things are accurate. Okay? Remember, mark it only when you need it. Next page. Fillmore history and branding. Okay? Now look, you might do a better job than me on this. But I picked 4 or 5 points that I think tell a nice story about Fillmore's history and branding. History and branding means something today. Branding. Make sure you talk about branding. Branding, branding, branding. Everything is branded today. Everything. Every product that sells well is branded. Fillmore is branded. Fillmore does a nice job of branding. With the orange and the signs and even the new colors now, everything flows branding. Okay? Fillmore has been selling real estate in Brooklyn for over 40 years. It's a family-run and operated business, unlike the many franchise entities today. And by the way, I don't know if you were aware, Mr. and Mrs. Green, but you mentioned that you're meeting with Coldwell Banker and Century 21. Those are both franchises. Point it out.
Why
Okay?
should they care?
Pardon me?
Why should they care?
I'll tell you
if this-
why. Because on one corner, there's a Century 21 agent, Century 21 office here. On another corner, there's another one, and they're arch competitors because they're franchises. They compete against one another. What do Fillmore's offices do? We work as a team together. That's a major argument that you're going to use, even though it may not be true in all cases. But you know, it sounds compelling. Come on, you got to be spin doctors, nurses, spin nurses. Yeah.
Right? The franchises, because they're individually owned and operated, they work against each other.
They compete against one another, right, because they're individually owned and operated. Yes, okay? So a family-run business has some panache. Now remember, one of the arguments that you're going to use for White Fillmore is because we have 15 offices and we work as a team together. As soon as I list your property, all 400 agents in my offices are going to know about it. Now, it's a little bit of a stretch, but it sounds compelling, right? Okay. Family value means something today. Guys, I would just read through these things. Read through them. It's a no-brainer. Okay? You're sitting there with them. It's in their hands. Read through these things. It's very, very simple. Yes?
Exactly how many officers and how many agents do we have?
I think there's 13 between the, I don't know about the Bronx office, again, I'm not fully in with all of it, but there's always in Staten Island, they got an office in the Bronx, so I would go with 15 and 400. 15 and 400, but that's also elaborated here in this document. You don't need to be creative with numbers, they're all here for you, okay? This fourth bullet point on page 5 is important, and I urge you to use this. Fillmore has great relations with all the franchise and local realtors, and we make our listings readily available to everyone in the Brooklyn MLS. All those companies do, but do you think all sellers know this? They don't, okay? When Fillmore lists your property, when I list your property tonight, honestly, I don't care who brings the buyers. I just want to see as many buyers as possible come to your door. Because if we see that, then I know we're doing our job. Sell the idea. Please sell the idea that Fillmore cooperates very effectively with other realtors. It's a great thing to talk about. Great thing to talk about. Especially considering that 96% of all the properties in Brooklyn are co-broke. Okay? Fillmore speaks your language. Fillmore is a very demographic-specific realtor. If you're meeting with someone from who emigrated from Africa, if you're meeting with someone who emigrated from Russia, from China, it's very, very important that you bring this up. If they speak a different language from the Middle East, bring this up. Fillmore has people who speak over 40 languages fluently. Okay? Now, if you do go to a French-speaking client, or a Chinese-speaking client, or a Russian-speaking client, or an Arabic, you should put together collateral materials in that native tongue also, just as an aside. Okay? Very important to do so. Okay. Next page. Now, again, I just want to emphasize this. This document, you can play with, make it more attractive, hand it out, and read it. Read it. Nothing wrong with doing that. Okay? And if you go on a number of listing appointments, you can commit it to memory. Okay? Why Fillmore to be your listing agent? That was the history. Now these are the reasons why they should want Fillmore. Fillmore is the most experienced realtor in Brooklyn. Okay? We don't just list homes. We sell them. That's a compelling thing to say. It's a fun thing to say. Okay? Since we have Fillmore has more listings on their website than any other realtor. Since we have so many listings on our website, more buyers naturally come, and we have more page impressions. Okay? More offices and agents than any other realtor in Brooklyn. Okay? Just talk through those numbers. And this next page, this next bullet is a good one. Fillmore's a technologically evolved realtor. If you've got a seller that's technologically evolved, this really appeals to them, and you can talk about these 3 points. Okay? Yes? That's going to be one of your differentiators coming in. Okay? Okay. Why me? Turn to page 7. Why me to list your property? Why me? Now you may have better reasons than this, but here's about 6 or 7 real good ones that anybody can use in this room. If you've got other reasons, like you speak Russian or you speak Chinese, put that in here. Or if you've got another value-added proposition yourself, put that in here. But here's 6 or 7 generic reasons why they should list with you. And get to know these a little bit more comfortable than the rest, so you can talk about them. Okay? The next to last one is a good one. I am formally trained and skilled at negotiation, so you can be rest assured that when we do get an offer, I'm going to work my hardest and efficiently to give you the best price. And why you're all going to be skilled in trained negotiation? Because you're going to come to the negotiation class. All right? So you're not lying. Also, this last point. I'm formally trained to demonstrate properties and build value. That class is coming up too. So you can say that you're formally trained. And before too long, when everybody does get certified, on your business card, it'll have Fillmore Pro certification with gold letters so that you can brag about that, you know, some bragging rights. Okay? So we talked about Fillmore's history. Why Fillmore? Why you? This is the most important thing. Turn to page 8. Turn to page 8. These are the differentiators. These are things that you do differently, you and Fillmore do differently than Coldwell Banker, Century 21, Douglas Elliman, and alike. These are the 5 differentiators. If there's one thing that's most important, it's this, to deliver on these 5 points. Because every seller, if they don't ask you, what are you going to do differently, they're thinking it. So, and the way you lead into this is, as I suggested a little while ago, you're saying, I know that you told me that you met with Century 21, and you're meeting with Coldwell Banker, and you're probably wondering what I and Fillmore are going to do differently. Well, I'd like to share that with you right now. Could you turn the page, folks, and come to this page, okay? Professional photographers. Now, I urge you to say this. I urge you to say this. I am going to hire a professional photographer. I, Les Newlands, I'm going to hire a professional photographer to go ahead and shoot digital stills, take virtual tours, and create a floor plan for your property. It's going to be done professionally. And why, as I mentioned last week, why you can get away with that is because you are paying for it. Because you're splitting your commission with Fillmore. Right? Yes. Not everybody. Not everybody. A lot of them do, but so, maybe not the ones that they've met with. And you know what? Besides that, maybe that agent who was presenting before you didn't mention it. Okay? But I'm going to hire a professional photographer. Not all organizations do. I can think of 5 in Brooklyn that don't, where the agents go themselves and take pictures. Okay? So, you'll know who they are. But remember one thing. Even though other people do what Fillmore does, if they don't touch upon those points in the listing presentation, or if they're not memorable, or if they're not lucid, the seller will never know. Right? Yes or no?
Yeah.
Of course I'm right. Question? No? Okay. So, I'm going to hire a professional photographer, digital stills, virtual tours, floor plan creation, and your own personal web page on Fillmore's website created. Okay? Home brochures. Make sure you have a home brochure with you to hand out at this point in time. One of those beautiful, slick, glossy home brochures. Get it in their hands. Touchy and feely. Let them go through it. Go through, you can have 3 of them. One for you, one for her, one for him, and go through it page by page, the home brochure. We're going to do one of these for you. Okay? Maximum exposure through the internet. You all know that one document. Let me see this here. No. There's a one-page document that's in color that has all of Fillmore's web distribution partners.
Yep.
If you haven't seen that, get your hands on it. It's very compelling. That is going to be also in your package, because what percentage of all buyers today use the internet in their search for a new property? Almost 90%. And Fillmore is going after these buyers because Fillmore has in excess of 20 web distribution partners, where as soon as we list your property will appear on all of these other additional websites, okay? Internet exposure is probably the most important thing. Exposure sells properties. Exposure sells properties. Exposure brings buyers. And no one provides more exposure than Fillmore. Say it. No one provides, on 3, no one provides more exposure than Fillmore. 1, 2, 3. No one provides more exposure than Fillmore. Okay? Especially on the internet. Seller's dashboard. Everybody get comfortable with the seller's dashboard. If you've got a seller who's anywhere near being a little bit technologically evolved, you can have a copy printed out of a seller's dashboard. Go to your manager, go to the top listing agent in your office, and get them to print out a copy of one of their seller's dashboards. And it's even been enhanced. And the big benefit of the seller's dashboard, obviously, is that it allows the seller to be as much part of the process as they care to be. Yes?
Would you do that
would you say now I'll get you your password after they sign the listing agreement?
Yes,
So you
yes.
say, let's get this signed and I can
I
get you.
get you your password, so you can see exactly what's going on, okay? And then the home warranty program. Now, this is a well-kept secret around Fillmore, I don't know why. The top listing agents use this all the time, they use it all the time. This is another one of those things, something that I'm gonna do differently than those other agents, is I'm gonna buy you a home warranty program. I'm gonna buy you a home warranty program. So now you're buying two things. You're buying a professional photographer and you're buying a home warranty program, but you're not paying for anything until the property sells. Yes?
Yep.
Okay. Now take a look at the next page. This is your role play. This is your role play for the professional photographer. Okay? This is your role play for the professional photographer. Okay? You can even hand this out and read it. This is what you want to say in your own style, in your own way, or hand it out. Just sit there and read. You know, if you list your home with me, I'm going to engage a professional photographer to stage and shoot your property. I promise you, you'll have a minimum of 8 professionally shot. Just read it. Okay? Nothing wrong with handing this out. And as they're looking at it, you can read it from your own document. Don't feel nervous about that. Nothing wrong with that, okay? And it has all of the facts here. Next page, personalized home brochure. This just walks you through, we're on page 10. This just walks you through what you want to say about the home brochure that you're going to put into their hands. Yes, everybody with me?
Yeah.
Next page, page 11. As they're looking at that nice multicolored document with all of Fillmore's web distribution partners, you can talk about these things that are right here. It's all written out for you. This is your listing presentation. Page 12, seller's dashboard. Again, you can explain the seller's dashboard by just reading this, should you care to. But these 5 differentiators are the most important things that you've got to firmly implant in the seller's mind. And 13, page 13, the home warranty program. Now, every one of your offices has a colorful tear sheet of the home warranty company. The home warranty company. Put that in there as well. Put that in there as well. So there's a document that validates what you're saying. Every office has these one-page tear sheets for the home warranty company. Would anybody like me just to run through the home warranty program? Let me run through it real briefly. And just here's the way it works. It's very, very simple. It's a well-kept secret. These home warranty companies are like any insurance company. Okay? In this particular case, the one that Fillmore has a relationship with, Fillmore uses, you'll sign the seller up with this home warranty. During the time when the property is listed, from the time it lists until the time it sells, their property is covered. The mechanicals in the property are covered. Their dishwasher, their microwave, their refrigerator, their stove, their oven. If you want to buy the rider, their HVAC system, their heating, ventilation, and cooling system, their hot water heater is covered. Now, if the hot water heater breaks, then a service person comes over from the home warranty company. They call up the 1-800 number. The seller calls up the 1-800 number. The service person comes out to the property, and there's a $70 charge. Just like there'd be a charge from a plumber if their hot water heater broke anyway, okay? But all the labor and all the parts, and if the unit needs to be replaced, it's covered under the policy. Okay, so the only cost out of pocket is the cost of the service charge, which they'd have to pay anyway if a plumber came out or an electrician came out, right? Everybody with me? Now, so the hot water heater is replaced at no cost. They're $70 out of pocket. The property doesn't sell and it expires, no harm, no foul. No money out of pocket. Okay? No money out of pocket. Now, when the property does sell, it sells in the 5th month. This home warranty policy gets mapped over to the buyer who buys the property for 1 full year. So you are going to tell the seller that we can use this as a great marketing tool, a great value-added feature, because not only will I put it in all the descriptions, I'll put it in all the home brochures, we'll put it online, and we'll have a big flyer sign, big cardboard sign that comes off your lawn sign that says this property is covered under a home warranty policy. So the seller benefits by having peace of mind, and you can use it along with the seller as a marketing tool to draw more buyers in to give you an advantage. Now the money end of it. Here's the money end of it. You, since you're buying the policy, you're not taking a penny out of pocket until the home closes, until that condo closes. And then you're stuck with a bill of anywhere between $299 and $699, depending upon the size of the property and what you choose to cover. Now, I know you're saying, well, that's a lot of money. But if you're making a $4,000 commission to you, then it's a cost of doing business. And the beauty of it is that it's a write-off for you. It's a write-off. It's a tax write-off. It's a tax deduction. It's a tax deduction. So you're not feeling it until the settlement table. It's taken out of the proceeds. It's not even that you have to write a check. When the distribution of monies come out at the closing, it's just less the $399 or the $499. Yes?
I promised to the seller when I signed the contract to sell this property to the homeowner. I was with him on the market for 6 months.
With the listing agreement? Okay.
And I didn't sell the house, nobody sold the house.
Right.
But in the meantime, he used the insurance to
Right.
cover something,
Yes.
the boiler.
Yes.
Something to the boiler.
That's good. There's no problem. You don't pay
I
anything.
didn't receive any commission. But who's
Right.
gonna be responsible to pay to the insurance company?
Nothing.
For,
Nothing.
to fix the boiler?
Great, that's a great question. The question was that you have a seller, the seller has used 3 or 4 servicemen coming in to fix this or that or the other thing. The property expires. Who pays, who covers those 3 events, the $210, $70 a piece? No one does. You know why? Because it's an insurance company. Not everybody who takes out life insurance dies. Not everyone who's got car insurance gets into accidents. So it's just one of those things where it evens out with the insurance
So
company.
the insurance not gonna?
No,
pay?
absolutely not. It never comes after you. No, you're good to go. Not at all. Remember, actuaries, these people who sit in rooms and crunch numbers all day long, they're the ones who figure that of the 2 million policy owners we have, 30% are going to put in claims and they're going to be of this amount. 20% are going to, blah, 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 and it makes sense for insurance companies to insure people because not everybody takes advantage of the insurance. So don't worry about it.
One question.
Yes?
This cover only one family.
They cover 1 family, 2 family, 3 families, condos. They cover just about everything. I don't think they cover co-ops.
Cover 1, 2, 3 family.
Yes,
They
but the
actually
numbers
do.
go up.
The premium.
Premium goes up. Premium goes up.
Okay, now you see that when the property is sold, this is when we pay and the insurance is transferred to
The buyer.
to the buyer for 1 year.
Right, and you're out of it then. You're out
And
of
if
it.
they want, they can ignore it with the company.
Yeah, they can. Yeah, the buyer can do it. Now, you bring up a great point because think about this. Think about this. Listen to me carefully here. I'm suggesting you do it in a listing appointment, right? I know agents in this company who, when they have a hot buyer, a motivated buyer, who's mortgage approved and who's got urgency, they'll say to that buyer, I'm going to help you find the property, but just to show you how loyal I am, I'm going to buy you a home warranty policy as long as every property that you might be interested in, you'll allow me to show it to you. I'll buy you this policy. I'll give cash up and buy you the policy. It's a way to get a loyal buyer who's motivated and real. I know agents who do that in this company. They buy the policy for the buyer, just keep the buyer close to them, and not let the buyer stray. Not a bad idea. Now, as you've heard all through your life, you've got to spend money to make money. This is painless because you're not putting a penny out of pocket unless you make money, right? You make a little bit less, but the some agents who keep this home warranty in their back pocket and they use it as a closing tool. If they got to push the seller over the edge, I'm not greedy in that way. I always use it. I always use the home warranty policy, a different one than Fillmore uses, but I always use it just as a value-added feature to get the listing. So I'm going to make $400 less, $500 less. At least I'm going to get the listing. Okay? And I'm going to use it as a marketing tool with buyers that come in. Okay? So those are the 5 differentiators. Okay? Now, the next thing on page 14, we're right at the end here, gang. Last page. Now it's time to present the comps, and then there's 2 other leave behinds. Okay? You present the comps, so that's another piece, but there's 2 other leave behinds. I would strongly recommend that right now, everyone in this room start collecting letters of recommendation. And it's so easy. How many times, think about this. Someone told me this a long time ago, and I do it all the time. I do it all the time now, even in my own consulting business. When anyone who you do business with, whether it be a buyer, another realtor, your manager, whenever anyone has something nice to say about you, always get into the habit of saying, thank you very much. Would you mind dropping me a short note to that effect? I'm building up a little bit of a portfolio of nice letters of recommendation. I really appreciate it. And before you know, how often every day does someone say, thank you very much for helping me? Say, it was my pleasure. You really helped me out with that lesson. I really appreciate it. Thank you. Would you mind just putting that in writing for me? I would have 7 or 8 letters of recommendation that I'd include in this listing packet that I leave. And the last thing is sales successes. Now I know there's a lot of new agents in the room, and a lot of agents who may have not had a lot of sales successes, listing sales successes. Every manager in Fillmore I know would be open to doing this for you. Listen to me carefully. You go to your manager and you say, I'm going on this major listing presentation. Would you mind printing out for me the listings that turn into sales that this office has done over the past year in this market area? When you have this list of the 15, if it's too many to put on one page, you should have maybe 15, 18. Just the address of the property and the price. The address of the property and the price. And across the top of the page, put my team's successes. Now, you're not taking credit for these sales, but at Fillmore, we work as a team. So why not put my team's successes, have 15, 18 properties listed with the price that the property sold for, and I would not review this page, I would not go into detail on this page with the seller. I just say, as an afterthought, I'd say, on the last page of the Leave Behind or Leave With You, to give you a sense, my team has had quite a bit of success in the market area. So at your leisure, you can take a look at that.
Just put the address
And the price. But my team's successes across the top. Your team, which is effectively your office, right? Your team, your office. It's a great way, if you're new, to show some sales successes. Because frankly, I'd be a little bit hard-pressed if you were brand new and you came to my house, even though you were sharp and you made a great presentation, to give you my listing if you didn't have any sales successes. But here's a way for you to demonstrate your team's sales successes. Yes?
You want to present that before they have a chance to ask you how long you've been doing it? Because if they ask you how long have you been doing it, you say,
right.
Oh, here's my team's successes.
Say,
They really have to
you know
answer
what,
question.
the best way to be, so ask me the question, let's role play it. I'm the agent, you're the sharp seller, who asked me the question.
How long have you been doing this?
I said probably the best way to answer your question, take a look at all of my team's sales successes on the last page.
Right, but how long you been doing it?
And say, what, then they may say, I'm not going to put dates. Then they may say, well, are these your success? Say, in my office, we work as a team. Okay? We work as a team.
But how long you been doing it?
I mean, you can say, if they press, I've been in the business for 2 months or 5 months. These are my team sales successes in the market area. Okay? Yes.
Yes. Garanno chi investigazione.
Okay, here's a question here. With the letters of recommendation, just 5 minutes more, folks. 5 minutes more. With the letters of recommendation, the question was, would it be wrong to ask those people who gave you the recommendations whether they speak in your behalf if that client wanted to call? It depends upon your rapport with those people. You know the people who gave you the recommendations better than I do. So if you feel as though they do you a solid, and they can articulate, and they're savvy, I would go with that. But typically they won't. They don't. They don't. The fact that you have letters of recommendation, the fact that you have sales successes, you know, that's really the key. Question?
Yes, first, it is not, something on being on time. Usually what, if you have a problem on time, you don't give exact time like 6 o'clock, you give 6:15, and for you, you got 6.
Okay.
To be on time.
Okay, I mean, that's a nice thing to do. It's a great point. It's a great point, you know.
Most of the time I do that.
It's a great idea. It's a great idea. The idea was that to make the appointment for 6:15 and show up at 6 o'clock. Get there a little bit early. You know, there's professional football coaches where they tell the players, tomorrow meeting we start at 9 o'clock. Players who come right before 9, the coach says you're late. You should be there at 8:45.
Yes. And the other point, the other point is for the insurance.
Yes.
It's come from the gross commission.
Yes.
It comes from your commission personally, or
it comes from your commission.
From
your commission. Yes.
From the part of your commission.
Right. It comes from your commission. Everybody with that question? Anybody have anyone?
Why is it?
Yes. Yeah. Great question. Great question. The question was, how long does this take to present? How long does it take to present? No more than an hour and 15 minutes max. Shouldn't take any more than an hour and 15 minutes. Your house tour should be 20 minutes. You know, I described all this stuff, but it's really an hour and 15 minutes tops. More than that, you're going to lose attention span. And remember, pricing and commissions all the way to the back end. Question?
It all depends, like what I used to do based on, excuse me, the neighborhood that you work for the listing.
Right.
And how much property that you sold, like you could bring like pictures and, set up like, something and say, well, I used to have it, like the date it was listed, when it was sold, the price,
If you had individual successes,
Yeah.
definitely do that.
Yeah.
I'm just looking for the newer agents who haven't had a body of work, a body of successes,
But
and have
then you
something.
can also show, like we said, Fillmore, we sell Brooklyn, so you can show, look, all this, properties we sold
Absolutely.
in East Flatbush.
Absolutely. Well, that was the idea of having, if the property is located in East Flatbush, you want to have a listing of all the properties that your office has sold in East Flatbush over the past 6 months to fill up that page. Question?
Yes, if you're having trouble getting down with the price, with the owner don't want to come down on the price for the
Right.
property, would that be nice for you to ask them to come out with you? You're gonna go to open houses that's similar to their house and see
why
what
not?
they. Okay.
Why not? Why not? Now the one thing that you want to, and we're going to be talking about this in the class relative to the listing to the comparable presentation. But the most important thing is for you, for properties that are still on the market, you would want to have gone out to physically visit those comparables before the listing appointment, just so that you can talk very articulately, and then you could even ask the seller.
Yeah.
If you don't buy into these prices, come on out with me. Let's go out and see them. Absolutely. Why not? Yes, Peter.
In my presentation, I have the picture of the property on the cover. And as I go through it, I get a little smile from the seller's face, because the last page is the same picture, but it has sold.
With the soul, it's a great idea. Yeah, what Peter just suggested, and actually that was Peter where I got the idea from, quite frankly, of taking the picture on the front, the front of the clear brochure, but the last page, even after all of this, all these attachments, to have the picture of the house again with a big sold sign across the front. Very cute idea, very clever. Always a smile. Yes. Yes. Emails, letters, definitely. Anything. Yes.
Do we have to make sure that the seller has time to listen to us first?
Of course.
Make sure you have time to be 1 hour from now, because that's kind of a problem.
Right.
If I don't tell them that, please, give me time, half an hour, 1 hour.
Great idea, great idea.
Because they say, oh, I'm going to dinner.
Right,
Hurry up,
right, okay. Here's the point. When you're calling up, everybody please, listen to me, please. We're almost gonna be out of here. When you're calling up to confirm your appointment with the seller, it's a great idea to say to the seller, if you could put aside roughly an hour of your time, that would be great. So go with an hour, if you go hour and 15 minutes, hour and 20, because you don't want to be rushed. But if I'm in the seller's house and they're ready to go out to dinner, I'm going to say, folks, this is the biggest investment of your life. Give me another 15 minutes, please. It's very, very important.
You just get nervous.
I
get nervous.
I know, we get flustered when we're up against,
What do you do first?
Right.
Compare.
Try to get an hour of time so you, because the last thing you're going to talk about, effectively, is the comps and commission. So if you get an hour, they're going to wait for that, for sure. Any other questions? Question?
Yeah, just to follow up on the previous question about the home warranty,
Yeah.
commission, the portion coming out of our commission.
Yes.
Why doesn't it come out of the gross?
Because...
I mean, I know the answer, I'm just
Because the gross, if it came out of the gross, it'd be coming out of Fillmore's
Right,
pocket.
so why...
Oh, that was your point!
Yeah, right.
I get it.
I mean, they were in a better position than we are to
Both of us share, right?
Right. Listen, don't worry about this.
You get paid by...